Hello and welcome to On One with Amanin. I am Bright Nana Kwasi Amanin. And today I'm speaking to Mr. Joe Jackson, Head of Business Operations here at Dalex Finance. And so right after the scripting, I'll be getting into that conversation. Don't go away. You're welcome back. And so I have here with me Mr. Joe Jackson. You're welcome, sir.
Good to see you, Bright.
Great. I'm seeing on the board a lot of illustrations when it comes to CD depreciation and how it's been able to stand the test of time, volatility from 2009 coming all the way to 2018 and all that. And now tell me, we've had two successive governments coming to power, parties, the NDC and the MPP. And I'm asking, which of these two parties have been able to make a great impact on the Ghanaians?
Well, from the economic perspective, right? You would say that the last 4 years, the 4 years of the previous administration, were actually the most stressful time we've had in a long while in this country. It was that was the period where all the gains we had made in the decade from 2000 to 2010, and we were known as the fastest growing economy in the world. There was the oil boom, and things were happening, and the middle class grew so fast, it was incredible. Those gains were whittled away in the period between 2012 and 2016.
Great.
Those gains we made disappeared. Now,
but before you even move on, what caused the disappearance of these gains?
Well, I call it some people call it the Dutch disease. Some people will call it we forgot where we came from. Some people will say we were just stupid. There was also the rise of corruption. But in effect, what we did is that we threw all the principles of economic management out of the window and went on a binge, an infrastructure building binge, a spending binge, increased salaries, all the things that were populist, but not necessarily the best practice in economic management. And we paid for those sins.
And all these happened in the John Dramani Mahama government.
They actually started, you see, first of all, you got to understand that this country has been driving into a more populist mode in the last few years. In order to win an election, every successive governments have been going into spending binges. But the worst spending binge was in 2012 for the 2012 end elections, where there was a massive spending binge. Right? It's not as if what's happening is that this has been happening with all the other governments,
right?
But it went crazy in 2012. And so after that, the scales fell off. Then we went into this period of what I call the telenovela time, where everybody was watching this fantastic telenovela
on TV,
being displayed on TV when we had the election petition, where the best actors were the lawyers and the judges, and we went through a period of 6 to 9 months. Nothing happened in this country. We're just in deep freeze. And after that election was on, we continued on our spending binge until when we woke up at the end of 2015, and we saw that we're heading for a massive crash. Then we tried to rein back the ills, but by that time it was too late. We had crossed the Rubicon. Things had gone wrong.
Now, when the MPP government assumed office, they stated that they had occupied a space where nothing was right. Finance was dead. The economy was weak and all that. Would you say that? Are you going to attribute all these things that was said by the MPP government to what you're saying right now, bringing it from 2012 when we had to go to court for some election rulings and all that?
Not just that, but the spending binges, the reckless spending. It was the reckless spending and the reckless borrowing that took us where we were. And I'll tell you this, the NPP diagnosed the disease. Diagnosed the disease. The diagnosis was fantastic. It was on point. If you read the election manifesto, if you read the first State of the Nation address, on point.
Perfect. But where has that taken us to after they came to power?
The challenge we've had with them fundamentally is this. This economy needs a root and branch reform. Things have gone particularly bad. In fact, we were at a point of crisis. Now the question is this: has this, in the 18 months that have passed, have we made an attempt to address the fundamentals, or we are papering over the cracks? My judgment from where I sit now is I haven't seen any fundamental change. I've seen a papering of the cracks. I've seen some really fancy footwork. I've seen where the most dire issues have been addressed. But the fundamental reform hasn't taken place.
But whose fault can we say is it? Is it the fault of politicians or we as Ghanaians?
Oh, it's definitely the fault of politicians. It is not even the fault of the economic managers of this country. Because the economic managers, I believe, are competent. They know what is right. The politicians push them to promise things they shouldn't. The politicians push them into a bipartisan relationship where we can't sit down and address the issues in a constructive manner. That's the problem. That's the problem we are facing. It's not the diagnosis of the problem. Listen, they've diagnosed the problem. It is not the solution. The solutions are orthodoxy. We know what has to be done. We know there's pain to be faced.
Which we are not doing anyways. Now let's compare policies by the NDC government when they were in power to that of the NPP government now that they're in power.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Great.
There was massive spending on infrastructure. My problem with the spending on...
How do you tend to develop a country if you don't build infrastructure?
No,
and that comes with
and
spending.
I'm coming. The problem with the spending was that the projects were not chosen because the return on investment was good and the developmental impact was high. The projects were chosen to fill a political need. So we have a situation where we built hospitals, maybe not the best places. We renovated airports. We did fancy roads, but the critical roads, the critical developmental needs were not addressed. Worse still, the cost of these projects was so inflated due to corruption. That what do you have? You have a situation where, first of all, the impact is low. So it's going to be very hard to repay the loan. Secondly, we're paying sometimes 50%, sometimes more. The World Bank's conservative estimate is that 40% of all the spending on infrastructure over this period leaked away due to corruption. Now, so you have, what do you have? For every 100 cedis spent, 40 cedis ended up in the wrong places. So you, first of all, you're taking a 60 cedi spent and you're going to use to repay a 100 cedi debt. 2, even that 60 cedis was not spent on the right things. It was spent on the wrong things. So what do we have? We have a situation where we've built up debt, we've built up the wrong projects, and we are in trouble.
Now, we had the NDC government build a lot of infrastructure. If you go and coming from schools, roads, like I said, but they were all meant to fulfill some political gains, like you just said. Now, the NPP now in power, we are not seeing much of that, even though they are saying that they are not going against the building of infrastructure in the country. We are not seeing much of that. And it's all about money in the pocket. Are we seeing the money in the pockets of Ghanaians?
Listen, I don't know about how you feel, but I ain't seen any money in my pocket. And I don't see the SMEs who come to my company to borrow are not feeling the growth. Let me tell you what the problem is. First of all, let's give the NPP credit. Some dire issues have been addressed, right? What are the dire issues? The financial system was in danger of collapse due to the indebtedness. The ESLA bond has come to fix it, at least partially. That was great.
Do you believe in that?
I do.
All right.
I do. I give them credit for that. What else do I give NPP credit for? I give them credit for the will of the governor and the powers that be to try and fix the broken financial system. Right? I also give them credit for some really fancy footwork on some needed borrowing. But all that is done. Great, fantastic. But have the fundamentals changed? That's where the problem lies. The fundamentals in this country really resonate around two things. Number one, we are uncompetitive.
Is it on the Ghanaian market or with the city?
No, listen.
It could be relative.
Business here is uncompetitive. What do I mean by business here uncompetitive? For so long as the structures in this country are set up such that it is, if I decide today to grow a bag of rice, it is more expensive by the time I finish than importing a bag of rice from Thailand. I have a problem. For so long as it is if I grow broilers for sale, chicken, and it is cheaper to go and buy 4-year-old chicken meat from Europe or from Australia, I have a problem. So what is our most dire need? Again, what was identified as the most dire need? Now, unemployment.
But when it comes to issues of unemployment, we are looking forward to making sure that made in Ghana goes international. Now, and if made in Ghana goods are going international, there's going to be the creation of employment among the youth. I mean, if it's poultry, you can imagine the number of people can involve themselves in this.
Listen, made in Ghana goods. To buy made in Ghana, it's not a decision of the heart. It's a decision of the pocket. It's not an emotional decision. It's an economic and financial decision. When it's easy for you to tell me about made in Ghana goods, when a bottle of Sobolo costs more than a can of Coke, what do you think I'll buy? I'll buy the can of Coke. When locally produced rice is more expensive than Thai perfumed rice, what do you think I will buy? When locally produced toothpicks are more expensive than foreign toothpicks, what do you think would happen? The issue is that this country cannot seem to compete, right, in production. Why are we buying telenovelas from India? Are we saying that we don't have the industry, we don't have the actors, we don't have the scriptwriters, we don't have the people to employ to produce telenovelas locally? It's very simple, my friend. Telenovelas are cheaper to buy outside than to get you to produce. So when you on your entertainment channels, you buy products from outside. Each time you buy a product from outside, it's a decision, it's a financial decision. You owe yourself, you owe the business a duty to survive. And the reason why you don't buy local is simply this: it's cheaper, it's more profitable. But what we don't realize is if we don't fix this country and allow people to produce locally, be it services, be it real products, all we're doing is that we are creating employment for other places. The countries that produce employ their people. When there's a telenovela done in India, they employ cameramen, they employ actors, they employ makeup artists, they employ caterers, they pay for the people that they use their premises.
But do we have raw material deficit here in the country?
You see, here again, I hate this argument. I really hate this argument.
But I want to touch on it.
But I will tell you why I hate this argument. The reason why we don't produce anything and the raw materials are not available, it's because we have created a situation where it's cheaper to import. For so long as it's cheaper to import, nobody will produce anything locally.
So the argument shouldn't be promoting made in Ghana goods, but rather making it cheaper to sell made in Ghana goods.
Competitive.
Competitive, great.
Listen, we're not fools. If a shirt can be made of decent quality to the price that you need, why would you want to buy from outside? The only reason why you buy from outside is that you can't. Listen.
You know, let me ask you this very quick. I think people don't know the reason why goods from outside become expensive when they get here in the country. One, you are paying for what you paid at the port because when you brought the goods and all that. And so, I'll be glad for you to take me through what exactly made goods expensive when they come here to the Ghanaian market, and why Ghanaian product are also trying to get to the same level as expensive as the foreign goods are.
Listen, when a good is bought from outside, it comes here, right? Whoever an importer is pays the taxes. He pays the supplier.
Exactly.
He pays the taxes and it has to distribute the goods. Now, if goods in, so first of all, there are two major components: the cost of the good that they bought, and then the taxes they paid here. Now, if I produce locally, right, and by the time I finish, the cost of the goods and the taxes I have to pay, the local excise duties, etc., that I have to pay, are still more expensive, I simply have a situation where I've produced Sobolo locally, but I can't compete with Coke produced from outside, but from the Middle East or Indonesia. And that's the simple understanding. Now, what we have to do is to ask ourselves, why is it that made in Ghana goods are so expensive? Number one is the exchange rate. Right?
I'd love for you to take a look at that and how it is causing a lot of havoc in that.
Let me finish this thought.
Great.
Number one is the exchange rate. Number two is the tax regime we have here. We penalize people who produce locally.
So expensive?
Yes. Why do I have to pay VAT when I'm importing raw materials? And you see, what has happened is that we've been so reckless, we've been so broke, that now we are looking for any means to get money. So what then happens is that I pay VAT even on my inputs for my business. I get no breaks because I'm exporting. I get no breaks because I'm producing locally. In fact, if anything at all, those who are importing get the breaks. So what has happened is this: we are, through the exchange rate, through the tax regime, through the general structure of this economy, penalizing local production. And so when some of us saying that, great, what you've done is great, you've stabilized it, but we want to see more action on root and branch reform of the structure of this company, of this country, to make it more competitive, then that's what we're talking about. Let's talk about the exchange rate.
Great.
Right?
Now, before I even go there, I've seen from 2009 how the graph is climbing up to 2008 and all that. Now, I've already spoken to you and you told me that we cannot compare what actually happened when NDC was in power to what is happening now as the NPP is in power. You've also told me that even though the NPP government is experiencing so many positions and all that, we cannot compare that to what happened in the NDC. Now, take me through that very quick.
Okay, it's very simple. Let's look at this graph. You have a graph. This graph is not mine. This graph was not produced. I'm pulling this graph straight off online from xe.com, which monitors exchange rates and exchange rates worldwide. Now, they are telling us what the exchange rate has been over the period 2009 to 2018, a 10-year period. Good. Now, when you look at it, let's go to the beginning of 2013. You see the steep rise from somewhere just below 2 all the way within a year to just below 4, and then it peaked somewhere around 4.4.
It gets to 2015.
2015. That's the highest rate. At 2015, and I'm going to try and show this.
Do some plottings.
I'm going to do some plotting, right? 17 June 2015, closed at 439.50. When it started, 439.50. When it started in 2013, January 2013, look at what it was. It was around 1.8. So it rose from 1.8 to 4.8.
All the rising happens in the NDC government.
It does. I'm not saying it's not rising.
What causes that? No, you told me that it's rising, but it cannot be compared to what happened in the NDC government. But what causes this very deep rise when it comes to a deficit and how CD depreciates in the country?
See, listen, your CD is what people pay you for your CD is representative of the productivity of your economy, or the competitiveness of your economy. Right? Now, the rise happened because you were spending more, inflation was higher, the more you spend
unnecessarily,
and they saw that our economy was not doing well. And so we were penalized by the fall in exchange rate. But guess what? I think this whole argument is tosh. And that the politicians are diverting us from what the real argument should be.
What should that be? What should be the real argument when it comes to this?
Should the currency be even at this level? That's the real argument. That by keeping, I'm saying that even at this, despite the fall in the cedi, right? Ghana's currency is overvalued. And that the cedi should fall more. And that when the cedi falls, what will happen? It now becomes more expensive to import. And we'll start to look within and look for replacement inputs locally driven. We'll start to look for, what do you call it? Local substitutes. And we'll start to export because it benefits us. Think about it. If you are any of the breweries, it's okay to produce from malt, but you know cassava can also produce beer. Yes. So maybe.
But the question is, how many Ghanaians are enlightened on these things you are saying?
You don't need enlightenment. That's what you don't need enlightenment.
What do we need as Ghanaians?
As Ghanaians, we respond to economic incentives. So when the incentives are right, we will respond. And nobody should ever tell you that Ghanaians don't respond to economic incentives. Right? Let me give you an example. Go way back. Cocoa. A product not grown in this country. A product that then took 5 to 7 years to mature. Ghanaians will take it. Right? Plant it. Wait for the required period to start reaping because they knew what they were getting. We respond to economic incentives. The incentives are wrong. The incentives are wrong. And when the incentives are right, people will produce locally. What about the period from 1990 to 2000? When the incentives were right and when non-traditional exports rose from 200 million a year to close to $1 billion a year.
How do we go back to these years when everything was good and the economy was good and we had less of problems when it comes to all this? How do you go back to that?
Things. Right. What happened? One, the processes for exporting, right, were streamlined. It became very easy to export. So everybody was exporting yam, cassava, handicrafts, whatever. First of all, streamline the processes. Make it easy and less wahala to export. Two, there were real economic incentives to export. If I export, I get to keep my money. The exchange rate favors me. I get a tax holiday. Don't penalize me for exporting. Don't force me to pay VAT on the inputs I bring for my local production. All those things were done, and there was a system in place. It was the period, what I call the golden age of Ghanaian exports.
Which we've lost.
We've lost. Because now, we're not doing... What happened to the Federation of Ghana Exporters? What happened to the Ghana Export Promotion Council? Now the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. How much are they resourced? What are they doing? We had people who will come and teach you how to farm flowers for export, how to farm cassava for export. We had
how to even plant
pineapples. Have you forgotten about combined farms that grew so big exporting pineapples that in that period he had his own hangar and his own planes to export pineapples? Have the lands in Ghana stop being productive?
Are we taking our producers and our farmers for granted?
We're taking them for granted. Let me tell you what has happened. The vocal minority, you and I, living in Accra, wanting a good life, wanting not, and I speak especially about those employed in the public sector, that middle class who wants to go to Dubai for a holiday. They love an overvalued currency because it means that I can take my CDs, pocket it, and it makes it easier. They want to take their kids to school outside. I'm as guilty as any of them. But do you think that when we are talking about propping up the value of the cedi, do you think that poor cocoa farmer, that poor cassava farmer in the eastern region cares? Or he's more concerned if the cedi was devalued and when he sells a bag of cocoa, you get more money for it. I'm telling you, this discussion about the value of the cedi is an artificial discussion. The people of Ghana, the masses of the people, the real people of Ghana, they don't care. It only matters to you and I when you want to wear a Gucci suit, a Muchi bag, a Gucci bag, or whatever chi you are calling about. Those of us who want to buy those things are the ones who care. The farmers, the rice farmers in Tamale, do they care? They care about the army well. Those who grow corn and maize and millet. Those who bring their young to
fertilizer and how they can grow their crops and all that. And now, let me take you back.
Let me tell you the worst part.
Very quick.
When you look at the CFA, which we used to import local produce into this country, what has happened to the CFA the last year? Last year, the CFA depreciated by 30%.
Great. When I come back from this very quick turn, I'm going to have you let us analyze some very important policies by these two government, these two parties, let me say the NDC and the NPP, who have enjoyed governance in Ghana, and how best their policies have been able to impact on the lives of Ghanaians. So I'm going for a very quick turn. When I come back, I'm still going to be here with Director of Business Finance here at Dalex Finance, Mr. Joe Jackson. I'll be back very quick. Don't go away. So we are back here on one with Amanin. I am Bryce and now Kwasi Amanin. And before we went for that very quick turn, Mr. Joe Jackson was telling me about how the CFA is faring with the city on the market. Now we are back and I can see a different chart on the board.
Yes, I've put the cedi to CFA chart on.
Okay.
A 2-year cedi to CFA. Now, if you look at this, on the 9th of April, if you look at this chart,
that is 2017.
Yes.
Okay.
It was 150 to a cedi. Look at the marked drop all the way to 120 to a cedi.
And this is 16 of June, if I'm correct.
16th of June. Now, this means, that's what this is telling you is simply this. Hey, if the politicians are concerned about the man, the ordinary Ghanaian, they should be talking about this, not the dollar. This is where we buy tomatoes from our neighboring countries, onions, yam, goats. We just ended Salah. This is what they will be talking about. No, they're not interested. After all, what do I want to take? Do I want to go to Burkina for a holiday? No way. Where I want to go for a holiday, they spend dollars. So the argument is about dollars, when this is what should concern the common man.
So why are we not talking about this?
Why are we not talking about this? Why are we not talking about this precipitous fall in the value of the cedi in relation to the CFA?
And so this is very current, as you can see, very current.
It is from, look at 9th of April to 16th of June.
Great. Enough of the graphs. We are going to come back on it, but later. For now, I want you to give me your take on policies by the NPP government. We have the 1-1 factory, 1-1 dam, money is allocated to Zongo Fund and all that. Now, where do we start with?
Let's start with 1 district, 1 farm.
Okay.
Now, you see, 1 district, 1 farm factory. Conceptually, great idea.
And let us note, it's exactly 1 year, 6 months of this particular party as a government in office at the moment.
Conceptually, great idea. What does it say? It says, I will encourage every district to find a private investor and have this private investor put up a factory and employ the people of that district. Fantastic idea. And that's how I'm going to fix unemployment. Small problem. Private investor. Private investor will take a business decision. Private investor has to take his money and build a factory, invest in that district. And whatever he is producing, from processed juice through to what? telenovelas, whatever you like.
I can see you're very interested in telenovela.
I like telenovelas because it's a sore point for me. Because we have such a fantastic movie industry in Ghana. We have one of the best, in fact, the best institution for teaching people teaching people work in the movie industry in Ghana, and yet nothing happens. We buy telenovelas from outside, we buy movies from outside, but put that one aside. This person, this private sector individual, has to be sure that whatever I'm producing, I can sell. If we are uncompetitive as a nation, if the price is against me, I will, despite all the rhetoric, be very wary of investing a business in any district in Ghana, because ultimately, whatever I produce, I must sell.
Is that the reason why we are yet to see the initiative take over?
That is why 18 months into the initiative, I'm yet to see a single factory that has been set up. It's all talk. Show me any factory that's been set up. I've seen factories launched, initiative launched, plans made, secretariat set up, this, that. Show me a single factory. Show me a single factory. And don't show me a factory set up by the government. Show me a private individual who has taken his money from wherever and says, I'm going to build a factory. I come from Senya Breku, just in the central region. Show me somebody who says, I've taken $500,000 and I've set up a factory to produce diapers for this market.
It's all talk.
It's all talk. It's all talk. It's just talk, because if I produce the diapers, how am I going to sell? We're uncompetitive. Somebody will hop to China, bring a container of diapers, and I'm in trouble. Somebody will hop to Turkey, bring a container of diapers, and I'm finished.
Now, we are also talking, like you just said, it's all talk. But let me ask you this. Is this government going to be able to execute this initiative?
Here's what I tell you. Unless we go to reform the fundamentals of the economy and get ourselves more competitive, do all the things that we need to do, it will be talk. It will be papering over the cracks. It will be addressing the most dire and disastrous things. But we've got to move beyond that and start to address the fundamentals.
Now, there is one village, one down.
One village, one down. I love that policy.
Is it feasible?
It is feasible. Why is it not feasible? It just simply says that I will build dams, boreholes, whatever in this country, so that we will move from rain-fed to irrigation-fed. It could change the face of agric in this country. It could move us from importing to feeding ourselves. It could take away the threat of food security and of droughts, etc., from this country. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. The dams were not supposed to be built by private individuals, were they?
It's a government promise and a government initiative.
Thank you. So here's the problem I have with that problem. Nothing has really been done there. And there somebody must be shot. Because a fantastic idea. It never said that the dams were going to be built by private individuals.
But what can we say is hindering government from executing all these promises?
I wish I could tell you exactly why. I can only conjecture. And my conjecture is that we are too broke.
As a country?
We are too broke. Listen, 2018 budget said to me that last year, 2017, if you take salaries, if you add statutory transfers, district assembly common fund, get fund, etc., and you add interest payments, that was 99.7% of all our revenue, including grants.
Huge amount.
Forget the amount. You are flat broke. If you three line items, you spend on salaries, you spend on statutory transfers, and you spend on interest payments. Remember, interest payments are all going outside, or the bulk are going outside, and you are 99%, translate to an individual. Where's your rent money? Where's your medical health? Are we surprised that we have a no-bed syndrome? There's no money to invest in the medical in the medical health sector. Are we surprised that we are still complaining about schools? Where's the investment? We are broke. We are flat broke.
So I ask, why make promises which are going to be very difficult to execute, and why? And how are we even going to get funds to
ask the politicians? And that's my beef. Ask the politicians. They're making promises. Yesterday, you heard a news item that says we should get ready for new taxes starting from July. Yes, I'm not surprised. Am I shocked? No, there's no money. And yet we don't take property taxes. How many people have come around to collect property taxes? Why is there no will and zeal to collect property taxes? Why do we take the easy way out of taxing the same few people that are being taxed over and over again? Why is it that in the laws of this country, it says that you can't register an asset like a house or a car without paying taxes? Why are we still allowing it to happen? We've given TIN numbers. It is not illegal not to have a TIN number. We have TIN numbers, but what are the TIN numbers being used for? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, whether you had a TIN number or not, nothing has changed. If today you're going to register a plot of land, would they ask you for your tax? They'll ask you for your TIN number, but nobody will ask you whether you pay tax on that TIN number or not. Nothing has changed.
We just make initiatives and leave them hanging. Now,
Thank you.
Tell me about the $1 million pay district.
Oh, that one is lost. Where's it going to come from? We are too broke to do it. Forget it. Has anybody talked about that initiative? Has anybody $1 million per district, 250 something districts?
That was one of the loud noise we heard.
But where is it? Did you hear? Have you heard any noise about it? At least the one district, one factory, we hear noises. Free SHS, we hear noises. NAPCO, we hear noises. That one, gone. Nobody talks about it anymore.
Now, let me bring you to the issue of borrowing. Let's talk about minimal borrowing. I know, Ashen, a financial aspect, you may have a very big take on that. When we talk of borrowing in Ghana and in Ghanaian government, how does that make you feel?
Let me tell you, we borrowed too much. That's the truth. We have borrowed too much.
We are still borrowing too much?
We are still borrowing. We are also borrowing because we are not facing up to reality. We are still promising. If you are broke, if today, forgive me for this analogy, nice young man, he promises this lady, I'll buy her an iPhone X. Fantastic idea, isn't it? But this young man is broke. By the time he paid his interest, did one or two things, there's no money. If he wants to meet that promise, what is he going to do?
You borrow.
You have to borrow. He'll go and jack up his friend and say, Charlie, I need to take the lady out to dinner. Can I have some money? It's a birthday. If I don't do this, she will leave me. Oh. Same thing. Why do we think that how are we going to fund the promises when we are broke? See, somebody show me that we are not broke, then I will understand. And I'm not quoting you statistics that I've gone to dig deep and search for and do some analysis. No, it's in the budget. Go read it.
And there comes in plans for food and jobs, which is going to, help people feed themselves and to create jobs and money for the pocket.
Listen, I'm an old man, relatively. One thing I have known is that I lived through the 70s when there was Operation Feed Yourself. Right?
Would you want to make comparisons?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this. When there was Operation Feed Yourself, everybody wanted to do a farm. Everybody wanted to plant a backyard farm, a poultry farm. People wanted to go into farming and do things. Now, it's all talk. What has planting for food and jobs really done? And nobody, and excuse me, read my lips, nobody, including the Agric Minister, should tell me that he has created 745,000 jobs, directly or indirectly.
I'm going to come to that.
Because, listen, the Statistical Service tells us that the deficit is 1.2 million jobs. If you've created 745 jobs, 45,000 jobs, hooray! We should see it.
Where is the proof?
We should feel it. We should know. I should know. Every one of us should know a cousin, a nephew, a brother, a friend, whatever. The guy living down my road, the guy living in my compound house who's gotten a new job.
Zongo Development Fund.
Zongo Development Fund. Where's the money coming from?
You are laughing to that.
I'm laughing. Where's the money coming from? We are broke. You see, don't go promising us more and more things because we are broke.
Free SHS is unable to be executed by the government, which was promised by the MPP during the campaign and all that.
Oh yeah, free SHS at what cost?
Very expensive.
Yes. And anyway, I'm not a great fan of the free SHS policy.
Why do you say that?
Okay, I worry that we are now going for quantity instead of quality, right? And we're bringing.
Is that not what brought the MPP party into power?
Forgive me.
Is that not what the wants?
I undertake political commentary, but I'm not a politician, fortunately, or fortunately, depending on what you said. But listen to me, yeah. A policy that pays for people to go into boarding school. When years ago we went through this whole deboardingization process, why are you paying for people to go to boarding school? Why? Why are you feeding people who go to who are in boarding house? Why are you paying their boarding house charges? Forgive me, pay the school fees. But if I choose to take my child to school in Cape Coast, let me bear that cost. Use that money to improve the schools wherever we are.
So with all this,
my problem with free SHS is not paying the fees. It's paying the boarding fees and the feeding fees.
So did you see from what you just said, are we saying that free SHS is not sustainable?
No.
You've been saying we are broke since.
See, when you are broke, right? When you are broke, you make choices. My problem is not that we don't want free HSS. My problem is that we must be presented with a series of choices that say, listen, if you want free SHS, and if as a country we want free SHS, I agree. Listen, I'm in the minority on this. As a country, you want free SHS, but you can't have free SHS and have $1 million per district. Choose one. Again, let me go to your analogy. You are a broke young man. You can't promise your lady an iPhone and dinner. Where's the money coming from?
At the same time.
At the same time. You may have to starve in order to buy the iPhone. But you cannot present yourself as, I'm cool. I can buy you an iPhone, I can give you credit, I can take you to dinner, and I can do this, and I can do that. It doesn't change for the economy. It doesn't change for the country.
If we are broke, doesn't mean the country should come to a standstill.
I'm not saying come to a standstill.
Then what do we do?
I'm saying let the country, let us sit down and make the choices that we want to do, the things that we want to do, because we can't do everything.
But these are promises that have been made, and the people of the country are waiting to see it being fulfilled.
Well, you can tell me what you like. All I know is that the way we are going, whether, you see, we have two choices. We can keep borrowing to fulfill the promises, or the promises are not going to be fulfilled. If we keep borrowing, we stand the risk of a Greek-style crash of the economy. It's as simple as that.
So what, because it's...
I'm saying you can't do everything. Let's face up to our reality. Let's face up to who we are. If we choose free SHS, great. But don't tell me you want to do free SHS and you want to do other things too.
So you are suggesting government or parties who are yet to come to power should make one promise and make a very good analysis about that. So it's going to be a very
listen,
easy and going to be executed.
Before I married you and I convinced you to come into marriage with me, I promised you a car, a house, new
good
clothes,
living condition,
etc., and a living allowance. After we came into the marriage, I realized that my pocket is worse than is weak. What I'm saying that let's sit down. My dear wife, I made these promises, but I cannot fulfill all of them. This is the situation. You know I still love you. You know I still care for you. You know I want to give you free SHS. You know I want to do all these things. But let's agree on what we can really do and what we can't. That's what I'm asking for.
Agreed. I know you've been having a lot of issues about the NABCO and all that, and you think it's a duplication, blah, blah, blah. Now that I have you here with me, tell me your biggest issue with NABCO, the Nation Builders Cause, NABCO.
Forgive me. We tried JINTA. Yeah. It goes on and on and on.
Why are you comparing these initiatives to this?
Because it's the same thing.
No difference?
No difference. Go and check. It's the same sanitation track. It's the same health track. It's the same. All of it is the same. And what are we doing? Listen. We've taken a duck, dressed it up, but forgive me. It walks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. It swims like a duck. It is a duck.
But it's just wearing some pants on the body.
Thank you. What we have is, why are you adding another 100,000 or so people to the workforce that you are paying for? When we are broke? When we can't afford our bills? I don't have a problem if you are rich and you want to employ people. I have a problem when you are broke and you want to employ people. In any case, if it is truly employment you want to create and real employment, you know what I would do? I would say anybody who sets up a business in a rural or peri-urban area of this country, not in the center of Accra or in the center of Kumasi, rural or peri-urban area, each time you employ a graduate, I will contribute 200-300 cedis to his salary. Then get the private sector to employ and pay. So it makes it easier to create your one district, one factory. Because you are subsidizing my, my employment in the rural areas. And you're giving me an incentive to employ people there. Not take money and throw it away at them. The same corruption will happen. Listen, Einstein says, madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. NABCO is madness.
It's madness. Very analytical.
It's madness. We've done this over and over and remember, I'm not talking about only the NDC. I'm talking about this whole idea started way back in the MPP. For the MPP started it, the MPP took it over, the NDC took it over, took it to another level, and this is morphed again. Has it ever delivered anything different apart from corruption?
What do you
Haven't we had report after report after report about how corrupt these processes are? What do you think will change?
But what do you think the MPP government, the MPP party as a government in power, is doing wrong?
Oh no, they are.
Because there's been a lot of promises from government, and we are yet to see a lot also take off.
They're just being too populist. Too populist. There are hard decisions to be taken. The economy of this country is in trouble. It is not going to be fixed by talk. It is going to be fixed by taking hard decisions. Right? Admittedly, some great things have been done, and the worst things have been fixed. But listen, this is the only country I have. I'm in my 50s. I'm not about to move from this country. If it crashes, I go down with it. Maybe you're a young man. Maybe you can afford to uproot and go and live somewhere else. I don't. And I'm scared and I'm truly scared that if we don't fix the fundamentals, we could head for a nasty crash.
We've experienced two successive parties as government in power. Do you think as a country we need a third force to at least give us a different face when it comes to governance?
See, for me, it's not about the third force. If the third force will face up to reality and fix it, all well and good. But somebody has to. Somebody has to. A third force is only good if it will fix things. If it offers a real alternative. If it's the third force is going to be another flavor of the same politicians we have, forgive me, then save me the trouble.
We don't need it?
Pardon?
We don't need it?
If they will bring change, yes. If they'll face up to reality, yes. If they will restructure the fundamentals of this country, yes. And it's been done before. 90 to 2000, the fundamentals were fixed. 80 to 90, the fundamentals were fixed. Why?
Now, 18 months into the NPP government, let's compare that to that of the NDC 18 months in government.
You see,
how different?
It's a very difficult comparison. One is that the first 9 months of the NDC, as I told you, were in deep freeze, right? So really, the first 9 months discounted. So 18 months, it's 9 months of operation. These guys have had 18 months, right? At this moment, some really good things have been done. The financial system, which was running close to disaster, has been at least stabilized. That's great. Some of our debts, which were bunching up and we couldn't have paid, have been restructured. Fantastic. There's been some amount of stabilization. What we are demanding for of this kind of government and that politicians give the economic managers room to breathe and allow them to start fixing the fundamentals. Let's not promise everything because we are too broke to do it.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think Ghanaian government finds it difficult involving the private sector in the initiatives? Maybe going for consultancy or an advice from the private sectors when it comes to executing some initiatives? Do you think Ghanaian government finds it difficult to do that?
No, I don't think so. Because remember, the people in every government are people who are in the private sector already. Technocrats don't particularly get involved in the government. It's in the private sector, except that when they get into the position of privilege, they start behaving like who they were before. It's the same, forgive me, it's like an animal farm. It's easy to overthrow the two-legged beast. But when you get there, you now start saying, instead of 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, now you start singing a new tune. 2 legs good, so you start working on your trotters.
Now, tell me about the city depreciation. Let me take it back. What is the truth? Is the NPP government doing well or not?
Okay.
Very quick to sign out.
From someone who doesn't want the city to be stabilized and wants the city to be allowed to slide. Unfortunately for the NDC, the NPP government is doing better at stabilizing the city. And this is even from me, who doesn't want the city to be stabilized. I just know that the NPP...
it is not relative.
It is relative. Listen, you saw the steep decline in the CD.
I'm asking about like how you just said that unfortunately for the NDC, the NPP government is doing well for the city.
Yes.
I'm asking, is it relative or not?
Or relative to what the NDC did.
Okay.
Listen, that is not something we can even dispute. That is not something we can negotiate. It is the truth.
And it shouldn't be argued about.
That is not the argument. That can't be the argument. The argument are the fundamentals changing. Is there hope for the future? Are things changing? Are we getting competitive? Can I employ more people?
And what you just said right now, I mean, the employment more of more people, is the future going to be bright? Is this going to be possible in this day and time?
It is possible. It is possible. I tell you, not only is it possible, the people who are managing the economy now can do it. They're competent enough to do it. They know the right things to do. The question is, will they be allowed to do it?
Looking at the strength of the economy right now, how difficult or what would it take for government to fix the Ghanaian economy and bring it back to straight foot?
It's not about fixing the economy. It's about taking hard decisions. It's about accepting that we can't do everything. You see, because one of the things we're saying is this. Even though you are broke and you need taxes, right? For example, go after property taxes and ease up on the taxes for things that we are about to export. Ease up on the taxes on the inputs for our business. Those are the things we're talking about. So there has to be a realignment of the economy. People who have built businesses on running to China and importing things, those businesses must collapse. And new businesses must arise that focus on local production. It's as simple as that.
As simple as that. And so I'm still here with Mr. Joe Jackson, Director for Dalex Finance, and we'll be talking on one. Before I let you go, what do you make of the Ghanaian economy in the MPP region? Very quick.
Well, some good things have been done, but a whole lot more needs to be done. My advice, let's face up to reality. Let's face up to reality.
All right, thank you. And so I'll be here with Mr. Joe Jackson, Director for Business Operations here at Dalex Finance. And this has been on one with Amenin. I am Bright Dana Kwesi Amenin. Thanks for watching.